It's been said that hope is not a strategy, and that may be true. However, it's one of the most powerful motivators in the world. On Unyielding Hope, we're going to take life head on, the good, the bad, and the ugly. We talk about and share stories and experiences of the challenges we face and how you can find hope in the midst of some of your most challenging times and circumstances. So sit back, relax, and get ready for your weekly dose of hope. All right, before we get started, a quick word from our sponsors who make Unyielding Hope possible. Hey, are you a learning-based business owner or a real estate professional? Are you ready to exceed your goals? Well, Cornerstone Coaching is here to help. In the ever-changing real estate market, challenges can often leave you feeling stuck. Cornerstone Coaching simplifies real estate, even in the face of difficulties, to get you unstuck and back on the road to your dreams and goals. Are you struggling with market conditions? They provide coaching that empowers you to lead confidently through their proven process. They help you navigate your clients through fears and objections that they might be feeling. The Cornerstone Coaching approach starts with an in-depth analysis of your business gaps, and from there, they craft a step-by-step plan using their time-tested models, systems, and tools. So if you're ready to embark on your journey to success, Cornerstone Coaching is offering a complimentary 1-hour coaching session for the listeners of this broadcast, Unyielding Hope, to uncover the missing pieces in your business and chart a clear path. Contact them today for your complimentary coaching session and let them know that you heard about it here on Unyielding Hope. Take that crucial step towards your brighter future. Hi, I'm Terry Gurno, and this is Unyielding Hope. Hey, I just want to start off by thanking you for tuning in to Unyielding Hope. It really means a lot to me, and I just really appreciate that. I realized as I was getting ready for this episode, though, that the first two episodes, I just kind of dove right into, what I wanted to talk about, as if you knew who I was already, that you had my backstory, that you knew what got us here and stuff like that. And I know I covered a little bit of that in the first two episodes, but I thought, you might be thinking, who is this guy? What is the background? Why is he even doing this? And so I want to spend a little bit of time answering that question. Who is this guy? You're probably here for one of two reasons. Number one, you're curious, you want to see what's going on, or you're confused about why I would even do this. And so hopefully this is going to clear some of that up, and that you'll want to tune in for future episodes. And before I get into anything else, I just want to let you know that I want to hear from you. So talk to me. I want to know what your ahas are when you watch this show. What are you thinking? What are the questions that you have that you would like to ask me? What's the story of hope that you have or that you know of? I would love to hear that. Who are the people that you know that I should know? I want to meet those people and get to know them. After all, this is all about sharing stories, encouraging people, giving hope, and hopefully even beyond that, delivering some practical steps that people can take to implement in their lives to turn their circumstances around. One of the things I've realized, and you're going to hear this in just a minute, is we all have choices. One of my favorite quotes is by Darren Hardy in his book, The Compound Effect. He said that you alone are responsible for what you do, what you don't do, and how you respond to what's done to you. And I really believe that. And I remember when I read that book, it hit me so hard, right in the face, right where I needed it. It really helped me. And I've gone back to that quote many, many times. And so anyways, that's, we have a choice. We can do some things. We can make some decisions. And we want to give you some tools, some processes, some encouragement, some inspiration to be able to do that. So really, that's what we're looking for. That's what we want to do. And so who is this guy? Well, I was born in Long Beach, California, and I moved to Seattle when I was 10. That's where I was raised. And my dad, there's 5 of us, 5 kids in our family. My dad was an alcoholic and very, very abusive. And we faced every sort of abuse imaginable in our home, and our home was not a safe place. We didn't want our dad to be home, and when he finally abandoned us when I was 10, we all breathed a sigh of relief. We really did, but we never really, one of the things that we never did, though, growing up, is we never really came together as a family to really support each other. we tried to do things on our own to be okay. We ignored what was going on. And, for me, I went out and played and with my friends, and I got involved in sports, and I didn't want to think about that. I didn't want to deal with it or anything like that. And so that's the way we all were. So we weren't really close as a family growing up. My mom worked full time, raising 5 kids as a waitress. And so my oldest brother, who passed away a couple of years ago with ALS, I remember he was my hero. And as long as he was around, as long as he was home, I felt totally safe, and I was happy. I remember one time, I'll give you an example. One time there was a Saturday where my mom and dad took all 5 of us to the movies, and they dropped us off. They didn't watch the movie with us. And I remember the movie was Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. It was a 3-hour movie. And so, great movie. I loved it. It was Disney. I was, I think, 4 or 5, which would have made my sister right underneath me, 4, my youngest sister 3. So I was probably 5, which would have made my 2 older brothers, 7 and 8. And so here we were watching this movie. It got over. Our parents weren't there to pick us up. So we watched it again. Instead of being concerned as a 5-year-old, I was like, this is awesome. We get to see it again. I was really happy. And so we watched it again, and once again, they weren't there to pick us up. So we watched it again, and I thought, this is maybe the best day ever. Loved it. It was. I think back on what a great day that was, and a lot of it was because I really didn't understand what was happening. I didn't. Now, when I reflect back, I realize that not only didn't they come and get us after each showing, but they didn't come back to get us at all. And it was nighttime. I don't know what time, but it was night. And my brother walked us home in Long Beach, California, 8 years old, leading a 7, 5, 4, and 3-year-old. And I wasn't scared because my big brother was there. And but I look back on that now, and I realize that my dad probably had no intentions of coming to get us, and my mom probably pleaded with him to go do it, but it was very little in her control. She didn't have we had one car. She didn't drive. She didn't have a driver's license. And I can't imagine how my mom must have felt, and she probably had to go to work that night. And was anticipating him picking us up. I don't know what the story was, but I just know that looking back, that was a dangerous time, and I can't imagine what my oldest brother went through, what he was feeling as he was walking us home. Back then, Long Beach was a very dangerous area, very dangerous. Even at 5 years old, I knew that, but I wasn't afraid because my brother was there. And so this is how we grew up. This is what life was like for us. And then when I was 10, we moved to Seattle, and that's where I was raised through high school, went to college, met my wife in college. And the challenges that I had there was I had learning disabilities, and I graduated high school functionally illiterate. And I was made fun of for not being very smart. I couldn't read, and people would make fun of me for trying, pronouncing words that weren't accurate. And I was never picked for spelling bees. I was the last person picked. It was like, all right, come on, you're the last one. I guess you're on our team. So all those kinds of things, although when we're young and we're growing up, we brush that off, they really do impact us. And here it is, 50 plus years later, and it still impacts me. You remember those moments. And so, growing up, I had people make fun of me. And I even had teachers, believe it or not, try to explain to me, try to help me understand that, Terry, there are smart people in the world, and then there are people that aren't very smart, and it's not good or bad, and it's not right or wrong. It just is. And Terry, you're just not very smart. And they really tried to get me to accept that and be okay with it and try to plan my future accordingly. So they said things like, don't plan on going to college. It would be a waste of time and a waste of money. Try to find something that you can do with your hands, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I love to woodwork, and I love painting and drawing and just building crafts and just stuff like that. I really enjoy that. Nothing wrong with that. But I was a people person, even at a young age. I loved being around people, being with people, and stuff like that. And so they just tried to get me to be okay with how I was doing. And so, And so I graduated from high school, and when I graduated, like I said, I was functionally illiterate. I didn't know what I was going to do with my life, and fortunately, I had a guy that I was in a small group with, and he was the leader, and he shared some things, with me, that some observations he made and some questions he asked. He heard me say things like, people like me don't get to do stuff like that, and that would never be an option for me. And he wanted to know where that came from, and I shared with him, my growing up and what that was like, and things I went through, and different things like that. And so, but he challenged me, and he said, Terry, I don't believe the things that you've been told. I don't believe it at all. And he gave me some reasons why. He pointed out things that he noticed about me, in that mentorship group that we were in. Terry, you can talk about anything. You can carry on a conversation. You have really good insights. You have the ability to reason and really add to a conversation. And I've never had anybody talk to me like that, and it really filled me with some hope, because I believe that. I mean, deep down, I believe that. I accepted what these teachers told me. I was preparing for life accordingly, but I didn't like that. And so I really resonated with what this guy was saying, and he challenged me, to really go to college, because that's what I wanted. And so I did. And I graduated 5 years later. That's where I met my wife. And we've been married for 39 years. And so that's where I met her. And so this, it was pretty amazing, just the process that I went through, the observations that I made, the situations I found myself in all throughout my life. But the thing I realized is I was a thinker. I would think about the things that I was in. I would think about the situations, what people were saying, circumstances around me. I would observe families and what I thought were healthy relationships and good family communication and good family dynamics. And what I didn't realize at the time, but I was gleaning from them. I was saying, I like that. I want to have that someday. And I like that. And I want to have that someday, because up until that point, I was real clear on what I didn't want. And what I didn't want is what I was raised in, what I experienced. I didn't want to lead a household where my wife and kids were afraid in their own home of their dad. So I from an early age, I was looking at, hey, I want this and I don't want that, and that's a good idea, and I would love to do that. And so just beginning to really incorporate those things. And so it was very challenging. And then I was in college, met my wife, like I just said, and we got married, and we had 3 kids. But I remember, my wife was keeping this journal, and it was her baby journal. I don't know if they still have those today. They might. I have no idea. But at that time, a lot of, women would get a journal, and they would journal about their pregnancy and how they were feeling and just different things, what they were thinking. And I remember there was a time when I said to my wife, as we got closer to delivery, that I looked at her and I said, do you think I will know how to love my kids? And it really bothered me. I didn't know if I would know how to do that, because I never experienced that. I didn't know what that was like. And so could I even give that to them? And I just remember her, looking, at me and saying, no, I'm absolutely sure you're going to be able to do that. And so then we had our first daughter, Chelsea, and man, my heart was filled, with just love that I couldn't explain, that I'd never experienced. And I really felt like I was able to do that. And part of what I drew from was what I had seen in other people, the nurturing that I saw, the communication and all that. But also, one of the things that drove me was what would I want? What would I want in this situation? What would I have wanted, in this situation, to be held, to have, someone spend time with me and talk to me, and even just get on the floor and roll around, play, and all that kind of stuff. And so that's really what I drew from. And I went on to graduate from high school, and I became a youth pastor at the high school, right at a church right next door to the high school that I graduated from. And so one of the things that happened while I was a youth pastor is I had the opportunity to to get to know this guy. His name is Rick Enlow. He's one of my heroes and mentors, and man, I just really admired him. And I got to spend a lot of time with him. We were on a trip together, and we were sitting next to each other, on an airplane. And I remember him asking me this question, and this is the question that I want to throw out to you. And maybe you know how to answer this, or maybe it's the first time you've heard it, or maybe it's the first time that you've not only heard it, but now you're embracing it and you're thinking about it. And he just looked at me on the airplane and he said, "Terry, hey, what's your story?" And I remember looking at him and saying, I don't have a story, because I thought a story was something that was amazing and like, wow, great. Wow. How did you do that? It was accomplishment. It was really achieving something, impressive. And, I didn't have anything that I was proud of in my life, in my past, that I could say, oh, well, it's this, So I just felt like, well, I don't have a story. And I told him I don't have a story. And he said, "You don't have a story?" I said, no story. And he said, "Well, then what was your life like growing up?" Now, I had that. I wouldn't consider it a story, and definitely not a good one, but I had that. And so I just began to share with him what I just shared right now, just in a lot greater details, gave him some examples of things that happened in our home, and some of the abuse that we experienced. And I never forget one time when my mom, this is a memory I'd like to forget, but I remember there was a time when my mom realized that her life was actually in danger because my dad was very physically abusive towards her. And she told us that she was going to leave. She was actually going to leave our family. And she said that, if I stay here, I don't know what will happen to me. I don't think your dad is really going to hurt you, but I don't know what's going to happen to me. And so I've got my bags packed. And when your dad comes home tonight and I hear him, I'll be downstairs. And when I hear him, I'm going to slip out the downstairs door and I'm going to leave. And we were all just, brokenhearted. And I remember going to bed that night, waiting to hear my dad walk through the door. But I began to pray, saying, God, don't let my mom fall asleep. Don't let her fall asleep. Because I knew if she fell asleep and my dad found her with those suitcases, I just knew what would happen. Well, finally, later on that night, he did come home. He walked through the door. I could hear him walking around. I could tell he was looking for my mom, and he went downstairs. And I just remember listening and praying that she was gone. Now, I didn't want her to leave. None of us did. But we didn't want to see her go through any more abuse. And so just praying, I hope she didn't fall asleep. And sure enough, she did. And I'll never forget the sounds of that night. I'll never forget walking up to her as she was unconscious and we didn't know, was she dead or alive? We just didn't know. And those are the kinds of memories that we have. And all of us have our own experiences, all of us kids, of how we were treated. And we observe that. Our siblings get treated that way physically and verbally and emotionally. And that would happen to us. And so I began to tell him this and share with him this story. And he looked at me. When I got all done, he looked at me and he said, "Man, you need to create a talk about that." And I thought to myself, a talk about that? What do you mean? And he said, you need to somehow put that together in a talk and deliver that to students around the country. And I'd never thought of that. I didn't know, how to do that. But more importantly, I thought, no, who would want to hear that? And I remember him saying, "Man, well, I don't know how many people want to hear it, but a lot of people need to hear it." And so I did that. I went back. He wanted to encourage me, but it really didn't encourage me. It actually discouraged me. And so I put pen to paper. I had my thoughts. I did that, and I worked on it. And I finally had this talk, and I delivered it for the first time at a city that was right next to ours. And the first time I ever did it, I got a standing ovation, and I was shocked. I was very nervous. I didn't know how people were going to take this, but I got a standing ovation. And that just led me to begin to do it more and more, and also begin to do it into my own high school. And I remember standing in our gymnasium, and I had teachers and coaches that were there, and they were very emotional because they'd never heard this story. They didn't know this about me. They saw the behavior, but they didn't know the story. And anyways, that was kind of a neat time in my life to be able to connect with them and hug a few teachers and get a little more context around my time there, and then of course their time teaching me as well. And so I just remember being asked that question, and here's what I've realized, and this is what I really hope you'll take away from this, is when you discover your story, when you know your story and the points of your story, that's when you understand your value. Your value, what you have to offer to the world, to your community, to your workplace, to the people close to you. This is where you know what you have to offer. And I just never forget how that not only changed me in that moment, but also how it changed the trajectory of my life and what I was able to do and the people that I was able to meet. And ultimately, that's who this guy is. That's kind of that's the background of how I got here. And then most recently, what we've talked about is my health journey. We'll talk about that more. But that's the takeaway, today is what's your story? And when you discover your story, that's when you discover your value, what you have to contribute. And I always, I talk to people and I'd say, there's a contribution you can make, but then there's the greatest contribution you can make. And I think when we get greater clarity around our story, this is when we're able to make our greatest contribution to the people around us. And so that's who this guy is. I have gone on then to do a lot of things. Currently, I hold a real estate license along with my wife. She has one, and my son. I am full-time. I am the director of training and coaching for an organization called Business Maps. It's a national training and coaching company. And I'm super happy to be a part of that team, and it allows me to fulfill my personal mission. And so I'm grateful to be able to do that. I'm also part of an executive leadership team that's launching these networking groups for business owners and CEOs around the country called the Millionaire Business Network. And so I'm grateful for that question, because that question helped me understand my value, really helped me solidify and bring clarity to my mission, and put me on a course to do the things that I'm doing now. Here's my personal mission, just so you know. My mission is to help you win in work and life. That's my personal mission. And again, I rushed into all this stuff in this first 2 episodes, but I really wanted to give you some context for who I was, and why I'm here and what drives me. There's a quote that I shared with a group of people that I send them a motivational message every morning. And I shared with them this quote this morning, and I love this. No matter where you're at, no matter what you're going through, Arthur Ashe said this, and Arthur Ashe was a tennis pro in the 60s and 70s, and this is what he said, and I love this. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. So I don't know what your circumstances are, what your background is, what you're facing today, but I do know this. Those words that Arthur Ashe shared those many years ago are still applicable today. Start where you are, no matter where that is. Use what you have. Don't wait for other things to come along. Don't put it off. And then do what you can. And then the last thing I want to share in this episode is this. It's one of my favorite verses out of the Bible. It's Matthew 11:28 and 30. And it says, then Jesus said, come to me, all you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light. Man, I'm telling you, do you need rest? Do you need to be refreshed? Well, his invitation stands true today as it did back then. Come to me, come to him, all you that are weary and heavy laden. Take his yoke upon you. So that's what I wanted to leave you with. I would love to hear, again, your comments, your thoughts, your ahas, your questions. Who do that I need to know? And what are your stories of unyielding hope? Thank you for joining us again for this episode and your dose of hope. We'll see you next time. Again, we'd like to thank Cornerstone Coaching for their support of Unyielding Hope. So if you're a learning-based business owner or a real estate professional and you're ready to exceed your goals, Cornerstone Coaching is here to help. The changing real estate market challenges can sometimes leave you hopeless or even stuck. And that's where Cornerstone comes in. Their coaching simplifies the real estate process, even in the face of difficulties, to get you unstuck and back on a clear path to reach your goals. So if you're ready to embark on your journey to success, Cornerstone Coaching is offering a complimentary 1-hour coaching session for the listeners of Unyielding Hope to uncover the missing pieces in your business. Contact him today for your complimentary coaching session and let them know that you heard about it here on Unyielding Hope. Take that crucial step towards your brighter future. Hey, thanks a lot for tuning in. I'd love to hear from you, so talk to me. Share your questions, your stories, your circumstances, and most importantly, share your experiences of unyielding hope. And please share this with your friends, your family, or anyone else that you think could benefit or be encouraged. I'm Terry Gurno, and this has been Unyielding Hope. Thank you for tuning in.